Spears and Steinberg.
You know what the fuck it is?
Aries and Andy, Jew and the Jerk.
You know it's time to get this work.
The real raw, gutter, uncut cocaine. No political corrections.
Always sleep.
Fuck being awoke. We discuss politics and jokes.
Scribe, we lit.
There's levels to this shit. Before you was sucking on your mama's tit.
Aries Spears don't give a fuck.
We talk about race a lot, racism,
Sexism.
Much love to my loyal bitch bag holders.
Rollers, clip loaders.
We got them in the folders.
The whole world on our shoulders.
Spears and Steinberg.
Yeah.
Howdy, boys and girls. Can you guess where we are? Yee! Dallas, Texas, baby. It is fucking cold, dude.
17. When
Dude, I had to turn the heat on.
I did too. I turned the AC back on because it got too hot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I got up this morning feeling like crap. My throat was hurting. But it was fucking icicles in the bed. And I tried to hold out. Like, I just really wrapped myself in the sheets and fucking was like, I'm going to get my warmth from the comforter and the sheet. But, man, I looked at my fucking phone and it said, what was it? Something teens.
17.
It's in the teens.
Yeah.
I said, oh, I got to turn the heat on. And then it started getting toasty and I liked it.
I went to bed last night, put it at 72 when I went to bed so that I wouldn't have any problems. I wasn't taking any chances.
And you know where my view is the pool and the basketball court. And I looked at that water and I went, how quick would you get hypothermia if you jumped in that water right now?
You wouldn't get that far. You get in and out. Get in and out. Get your energy going.
Shit. 17 degrees? I know that shit was ice bath.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. It got real cold. We were worried that and knock on wood, the snow.
Because we're supposed to leave tomorrow.
Yeah, there was a flurry today and doesn't show one for tomorrow. So hopefully everything goes well. We can still get out of here.
Dude,
but it's going to be cold tomorrow.
Well, that don't mean shit. We just out of here, though.
Yeah, but
my thing was I looked at the weather, and it said, and you even told me last night, 45% chance of snow, and it showed that there were flurries. And then I looked out my window. I didn't see no flurries.
nothing over here where we were.
Yeah. So,
Same thing in Jersey where I'm at. But
yeah, so hopefully it won't interrupt our shows for today, which have all been sold out.
The thing that's going to interrupt our show is the playoff game that Dallas is playing today. We got to.
But that's during the day, though, right?
It started at. It's supposed to start at. Was supposed to start at 3:30. I don't know if it started yet. So I was going to check that right now too, just to see if they got going because, yeah, they got going and it's in the first quarter and Green Bay is up by a touchdown.
We'd be all right.
Yeah.
And if they win, then be in good spirits.
Yeah. If they lose.
Be another day at the office for Dallas. I didn't even know they were doing that good. 12-5.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, my boy Red Rock. Remember Red Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah, he took me to go do this podcast I had to go do yesterday. And he that's when he had told me that, they 12-5. Shit. Look at that. So yeah, tomorrow, Monday. Hopefully, if it didn't come by today like they predicted, then chances are we good then.
Yeah, it's supposed to be good tomorrow. It's just supposed to be cold.
Yeah.
As long as it's not wet and cold, you're good.
Right. Actually, I like some of my twat wet and cold. I don't like it cold. It's got to be warm.
I would think you would prefer
cold twat is like cold jizz, but we went down this road. Okay. Before we get to the meat and potatoes, real quick, I stumbled on this as I was downloading the 3 Identical Strangers, which was recommended to us from Amazon Prime. I ran across this gem that's going to be coming up. We're going to discuss next week. So we're giving you guys the heads up so you can be on point with us. Thriller 40, the 40th anniversary of Thriller, Michael Jackson. It's available. I got it from Apple TV. You said Paramount?
Paramount and Showtime, I guess, are teamed.
Yeah, Showtime is releasing it, but it's available on Apple TV right now, Showtime, and I guess Paramount. And it's about, the Thriller album and the impact of that album and Michael Jackson. I already watched it. I already did my notes. It is a must fucking watch. Come on, man. I don't need to sell this. It's Michael Jackson. the greatest pop icon, star, legend of the world has ever seen. And it's going to be a great talk between me and this Jew here. Jew, motherfuck you. Give me a couple of steps here, Spider. It's going to be a good conversation, I think. So be prepared for that next week, guys, because, we're going to dive into some race talk about the documentary I was telling y'all about, Stamped from the Beginning, and this Three Identical Strangers, about these three Jews who were separated at birth and met up when they were in their 20s.
In the 80s in New York.
In the 80s in New York. So before we get to that, though, real quick. So Godfrey called me and was like, yo. And I knew that Joe Coy was hosting the Globes.
Yeah, the gloves are the boxing.
Yeah, but I didn't really, I just knew about it. I just didn't watch it. Why would I watch any award show, really? And he was like, yo, man, I heard he stunk to join up. I was like, what? Which, was surprising to me, because let me tell you something, hands down, and let me get this man his flowers. Joe Coy is one of the most talented comedians in the fucking game. This dude is a beast, man. From start to finish, his I hope I'm using the ascension. When you rise, he set the record at the Brea Improv. I think it's either 12 or 14 consecutive sold out shows, where he started on I think a Tuesday all the way through Sunday and did 12 back-to-back shows, completely sold out. And now he's doing arenas and shit. So Joe Coy is a beast. But when you watch the footage, first of all, I unless they did some sort of trickery with the applause button, because every piece of footage that I saw, they were laughing, and certain celebrities that they cut to were laughing. But there was some backlash. There was some things said. He was called a racist by some people, some critics, for some of his jokes. Certain jokes didn't land. And then, they would cut to certain other people's faces. Like I sent Andy a clip where he tells one joke. What's the old chick, Meridian? She's in the sequel to Shazam. The old sexy chick. She's sitting next to Harrison Ford, and Harrison just cut her a look and looked down who is this dude? And, as a comic, you got to feel for him. And I did, because, listen, I've never done an award show. First of all, and I've always said, hosting, I would never want that gig. Because I don't care how funny you are as a stand-up, that's just a different gig. I like to do my thing, bada boom, bada bing, and be out. All that me going up, doing a little bit of time, introducing motherfuckers, coming back and forth between commercial break, I have no interest in that. And two, because I'm acknowledging that's a hard gig, man.
Well, it's not comedy, first of all. Let's just get this straight. It's not comedy.
That's an interesting take.
No, it's not, because when you, as a comedian, you do a comedy show, people came to ingest comedy. They came to laugh. They came to enjoy a comedy show.
Right.
This is a bunch of, and I'm not trying to be mean to Hollywood.
Keep it real, Andy. Keep it real.
I'm going to say it what it is. These are a bunch of overpaid, overhyped people.
I'll throw in some more adjectives.
Okay.
Stuffy.
Yeah.
Obnoxious. Their noses are in the air. They live in a bubble.
Because they are on a level that most people don't get to, and they're held in high regard, not because of who they are, but because of what they've done. Yes. And what's important about that is they could be horrible, horrible people, but because they've been in a movie that someone wrote a part for them that they played very well, and the character was a great character, and you love the character, the person could be a piece of shit. I'm not saying that's true with everyone. I'm just saying it can be. But they came there to be
praised.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is not a comedy show.
Right. Well, aren't these things seen as roasts, though? And before I get to that, well, let me just say it. And I said this when we kind of talked about it at the hangout spot after the club. Look at Ricky Gervais. He murders it.
Yeah, but they don't necessarily like him. When you watch it, they're getting weird looks. The people who watch it at home think it's funny, because it's the chance. Ricky Gervais uses what comedy is for that. It's to take the piss out of someone who is held in that high regard for no apparent reason other than they played someone that people liked. They have a talent of being somebody else besides themselves.
Do you think that, and this is what I love about Ricky Gervais when it came to that, do you think his I don't give a fuck you attitude helps him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Because Ricky Gervais, first of all, he doesn't live here.
Yeah.
And two, he's always going to be able to do comedy. And I don't think he gives a shit. And if he wants to write, he writes. But like he wrote The Office. The original Office is Ricky Gervais.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I didn't know
He
that.
wrote it for 1 year. This is the American adaptation of what he wrote. And he did it for 1 year. And he was done after 1 year. He was like, that's it. That's why The Office in the UK was 1 year.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. That's what you need to be able to roast these people, because these people have taken themselves very seriously. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I want it. I would love to be able to to be called to come see a basketball game because they wanted me in the front row on at the game, so everybody would see the famous person in the front row. That's an awesome thing to do. There would be hundreds of people waiting to get into a restaurant, and you could walk in without a reservation, and they would want you to be at the restaurant so that you get a seat. Of course, who doesn't want that? But when that happens to you, time and time and time again, what do you think about yourself?
You're entitled and high regard. High regard.
So it's hard for someone, especially someone like a Joe Coy, who they might not know, even though we respect him. And he roasts him, and then they look at him like, who is this guy making? Why does he have the right to make fun of me? Everybody has the right to make fun of you. You're on that perch because we gave you that right.
You know, and listen, this is why again, when I always go, look, man, I'm not a political comedian, but because I'm in the comedy game, I tip my hat to Bill Maher because I envy the fact that a guy like him and Louis Black can do that where I know I cannot. So when you look at a guy like Billy Crystal, who always said, know the room, Billy was one of the best at that. I thought Chris Rock, when he did it, was great at it. So again, that's not an easy gig. And what's amazing is how I always say, in this game, just because you're great at one aspect does not automatically translate and is a birthright to another aspect. And again, Joe Coy's a beast. But that gig is a very hard gig that I would want no part of. Because he even said in one of the jokes, look, guys, I got this gig 10 days ago. And you want a perfect monologue? You know, he didn't say the words, fuck you, but he had an attitude like, fuck out of here. And it's like, you know, dude, can you imagine the nerves you must be feeling when you know this is a gig where if you kill it, it could shoot you into a different stratosphere in terms of Hollywood. But if you don't kill it, it can also fuck you. And so I'm just like, man, imagine being in Joe Coy's shoes where you're sitting up there and you got A-listers, the biggest of the elite in Hollywood, from directors, producers, actors, network heads staring at you, judging you, and you want to kill it and you're not. Or you want to kill it and you got to, on top of that, your nerves, your automatic nerves. I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't want no part of that, dude.
I think not to have any time to do it, to really put it together. Because usually you get months to put this together, get a monologue,
Right.
get to break down the films, get to like really try to find some way to connect in a funny way with the people who are the people being awarded. I don't know, man. I wouldn't want it. I would want it. I thought he did a good job. First of all, I'm going to say I saw it. I thought he did a good job. I think they overblown it as like it was terrible. It wasn't terrible. When they say that he's throwing his writers under the bus, these are his people that he hired. Everybody. This is the thing that they said before they said that. Joe should have hired writers that were more experienced with this.
I
kind
didn't
of
even
thing.
know that you had writers. I thought that it was all you, the monologue.
No. He was like that, but they said he should have had people that were more experienced in this kind of awards, and he hired the people that he wanted to hire. So when he's up there and he goes, I didn't write it. You don't think that they laughed about this? I think that they laughed about this in the writer's room. I think that this was a bunch of guys that are comics writing these jokes, and they're having fun with it and going, no one's going to laugh at this.
But you don't think he threw them under the bus when he said, the jokes you laughed at, I wrote those?
You know what? It sounds like it, but if all these guys are playing and had a good time, they're all his guys, and he said, I wrote those, you really think that he wrote all the ones that they laughed at? Or do you think he just said that because he goes, I'm just going to tell everybody I wrote the ones that were funny? That's something a comic would say to his boys as they're writing jokes. Right. It doesn't make a difference. I'm taking credit for every single one that gets good laughs.
Right.
That's what we would say to each other. When I watched him do it, I was laughing because I imagined being in that writer's room with him and we're going through it and go, we don't have enough time to do this. This isn't going to be funny. They're not going to like this. And then he's like going to go, don't worry about it. We're just going to put it in. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to throw this out there. Don't worry. I'm the one out there. I'm going to take credit for, I could see that being said. I know Joe this much. I don't know him well. I've got to be around him a long time ago.
Super nice dude, too.
One of the nicest guys. So when he's saying, I wrote that. That's tongue-in-cheek, man. I know that guy. There's no way he would ever throw guys under the bus for the purpose of making himself look better. That was for the purpose of the show. I think that Joe is great. I think there's some silliness to Joe that doesn't necessarily translate to a hoity-toity thing like this. Right. And that's what he couldn't lean on, is the silliness sometimes that he has. Joe comes from the time when he started to blow up, was talking about his son, when he was raising his son and his ting-ting. I mean, it's not a ting-ting crowd.
Right.
But that's who Joe is, and I think that this is... I think the experience is better. They were just looking at it. I think they were looking to make him look bad in some ways.
Well, plus it's like the only part that from the outside looking in would bother me a lot is like, again, you take all these things as steps to elevate your status in the game and in Hollywood. And, when you got Tom Hanks tweeting, no, it wasn't racist. It just wasn't funny. And this is coming from one of the nicest dudes on the planet in Tom Hanks. And Robert Downey Jr. said something, but I connected that because Robert Downey Jr. didn't like the Oppenheimer joke. But I'm going, you're in the movie. Of course you're going to defend it. But when you look at who Robert Downey is in terms of personality, he also is a nice, fun-loving, don't take himself too seriously dude. So when you got Tom Hanks and Robert Downey Jr. giving you a little pushback,
what? I'm going to be honest. I don't think Tom Hanks or Robert Downey Jr. go to comedy shows. I could be completely wrong.
But look at Tom Hanks' background. He's kind of comical.
He's a comedic actor.
Right.
At the beginning of his career. I mean, is bosom buddies? Could we knock him for bosom buddies today?
Right.
So I don't know, man. I came away with a different outlook than this. And the other thing that he said, I only had so much time. Are you expecting a perfect whatever? I think that's relevant that he's saying to other professionals in that audience,
right?
In a tongue-in-cheek way, guys. No one wanted this fucking gig. I got this with 10 days.
And yes, comics turned it down. They went to a lot of people and they turned them. Yeah.
So I took it. And I'm going to give you this. And you know what? On just the fact that you know how this business works, fucking relax.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
Last note before we jump off of this. I thought it was interesting. I saw a clip of Jim Gaffigan. And he did a little comedy for when he was up there. And he said, yeah, this is strange for me. I'm not a Hollywood guy. I'm from a small town in Indiana. I'm not a pedophile. Whoa. And, they laughed. Like, what the fuck you know what I mean? Like, that's odd.
Well, if you're not laughing, then you're a pedophile, right? So you better laugh.
Well, Ricky Gervais also has called them pedophiles, too.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. If you're not laughing, if you don't let it be seen that, oh, that was funny.
Right.
Why would you be angry at that if it's not you?
Yeah.
I think these guys. Listen. People that you mentioned. Robert Downey Jr. is one of those guys that I would love to meet,
right.
But I would hate to meet him because I'd be worried that I wouldn't like him afterwards because I like him right now, right?
Yeah.
But these guys just sometimes let it be what it is. Yeah, it was a roast. Let me put it this way. Let me rephrase this. Let me do it a different way. We see the roast battles that go on at the Comedy Store, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty harsh, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Even the roast battles at Comedy Central.
Okay, even Comedy Central's roast battle. How many of these guys that you see sit in the stands at these award shows could actually sit at a Comedy Central show and get roasted, and be okay with it.
Right. I don't think many.
Yeah, I don't think that they have that ability. I think their skin is too sensitive, not because of who they are, but because of how they've been treated. They're like tender veal. They've been placed carefully in a box and moved around and fed the best of whatever they have to offer.
Right.
And they're very pampered. And that's what that business can get you. But that's also what it can make you. And I'm not mad at them. I mean, I'm not mad. It's not. It's the nature of this business, of the business. That's the outcome. I don't think that Joe Coy did a bad job. Did he do a great job? No. Did he do a great job for 10 days and being one of the last guys on the list to take it? Yes, he did.
Yeah.
So to everyone else who has this problem, man, I think you got to weigh it. It wasn't someone who got the actual shot to do it. He got a very small window of opportunity to put this together and go out in front of the public and do this. And instead of saying, "Hey, man, it's pretty good for someone who has never done this before," had 10 days to do it, hired an off-the-cuff writing staff, put this together, and came out there amongst all his peers that are truly above. I hate using the word above, but
You got to call it what it is. Above him.
Above him,
Yeah.
and still go out there and do that job. Yeah, I think we're looking at it the wrong way. I think so. I think a lot of the public was looking at it the wrong way.
Shout out to Joe Coy, man, because he's a phenomenal comic. He's a super nice dude. His success is undeniable. He sells out arenas. That's just a different gig, man.
Yeah, man, he just
and it was his first time ever.
Yeah, he just grabbed his ting and went out there and did his thing.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so the documentary that I've been telling y'all about, Stamped from the Beginning. You know, the very opening thing that they mentioned, and I remember when we had this convo with Vince, where you kept alluding to, you know, whites were slaves too. So there's slavery everywhere. And you kept sticking to that based on this. Based on
the truth?
No, I'm going to say.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I threw that in there because I didn't get credit for that before.
But, okay, let me go. All right. So I watched it and I saw what they said and I went, oh shit. So yeah, Andy was right on that. Based on this, you were right. But then they pointed out the difference on why blacks were the better option versus whites. And one of the people said the inability to blend in, and they justified it by calling us beast, and therefore we were inferior.
Well, and again, I've said this before, there was always slavery, but in this, especially for this new slavery that was about to happen, you guys had the right uniform. You couldn't hide. You couldn't disappear. It was definitely your skin color allowed you to stand out where they could go, nope, that's not
right.
That's not a traditional American person. That's a traditional American slave. And by being able to do that, they were able to control that. I said that in the beginning. That's what benefited slavers.
Right.
So yes, that's without a doubt, and this is why this new era, I guess, of slavery enters, because it's a perfect setup for the West to be able to separate. But keep going, because there's a lot more to this.
No, but there is, and which will bring me to the second part is, listen, I have always said, and I will always continue to say, I am not the smartest person in the room, which is why I appreciate when we have these moments with Godfrey, with Vince, with Kyla, whichever, Brother Rizza Islam. Because listen, I will always welcome information, so that even if I'm not the smartest guy in the room, I can try to level up my smart a little bit. Like for instance, I didn't know, and it was called, I didn't know about Bacon Rebellion, when black and white slaves got together to rebel against white slave owners. And I thought to myself, well, wow, why don't they teach that in the curriculum?
Well, they have, but see, this is where we get into problems. This is why when we were doing the podcast with
Vince,
with Vince, I couldn't get to there because Vince didn't want to acknowledge one was better or worse than the other. And even in this is where I get kind of...
But they do, though.
But here's where I'm going to go. No, Vince didn't. Vince was like, didn't want to hear about... he looked at it as if you were in an indentured servitude, which indentured servitude could last longer than the 7 to 10 years, which was normal. And this has to go with a biblical number where 10 years is a slave. There's a lot that goes in behind this, but then you could have extra years added on, whatever it was. And then they said in this doc, they said, and I always like that they do this. And this is something that, maybe I'm wrong. And this is a white perspective, so maybe I'm wrong. And I'm willing to admit that.
You're wrong. They
said they were on the same level. In this, they said the same level. There were slaves, the black slaves, and the white indentured servants. And the only difference, they might be, the whites were treated in slightly better conditions. See, I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
What was it you don't buy? That they were treated as the same harsh conditions as the blacks?
They were treated in the same harsh conditions as the blacks. And for certain reasons. I'm going to say one thing to you that...
Well, I'll give you this before you finish your point. They did show the picture of white people being flogged with no shirts on, whipped the same way blacks would. And let me let you finish your point. But this, again, is where I have to continue my education, because it just seems that somewhere down the line, the brutality of it was just far worse than what whites ever received.
Down the line, the brutality.
Down the line.
And I will grant you that. At this particular time, though,
right.
One of the things that I try to say, and I said try to get this to Vince when we were talking about it is, yes, you know that you have someone, maybe you do have an indentured servant, so you know you have them for 7 years, right? Now, you have a slave that you own, you have them indefinitely. If I have a leased car, I may skip a service appointment. It may be towards the end of my lease, and I may not do the engine check. I may not do the new brakes. I own my car. I take it to get its oil changed. I get the new brakes. I'm going to take care of it because I want it to do well. I want it to last. That doesn't mean that I don't abuse it. We abuse our cars sometimes too. I'm not trying to. And listen, a lot of people are already. I can feel that I'm relating a human to a car. Yes, especially at this time, because at that time, just property. Property. We're talking about property. I'm not happy. I'm not proud about what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's the context in which the conversation has to be. Yeah, you're going to listen. If it came down to the last week and you had someone who was going to end his indentured servitude, and you had someone that was a prime slave that you were taking care of, that was doing good work, and you had a dangerous job, are you going to send your best guy in, or are you going to send the guy who you only have a few more days with? Oh, the lion ate him. Well, he was only here for a couple more days anyway. I'm just saying you have to put this into context.
Let me do another analogy that I think is a little bit more better than that, because we're not talking about a car. We're talking about really people and how they're going to be treated and be made to feel. It's almost like, a regular Joe Blow who commits a crime that ends up going to prison, right? Versus a Martha Stewart who might go to what feels like a country club. It's still your freedom taken. It's still you're locked up, but there's a difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
aren't there some people when they get locked up?
Yeah,
it's like a country club they're going to.
Yeah,
not hard jail.
It's safer. It's a different way that they have it. But I'm saying at this time, if you were an indentured servant and you had someone you were property to them and they were making money off you, that's what you were. Listen, these guys that had slaves at this particular time that we're talking about, they were industrialists that were about making money. They didn't give a shit about the person on the other end of it. They didn't give a shit for years when you own companies, even after we talk about slavery. These are people that are, there is no sympathy for the person underneath them.
So you're saying the powers that be didn't give a shit about these white slaves either?
No.
Then why so brutal with the black ones?
Because later, when we get into chattel slavery, this is just about property. There's no more white slaves. They separated the white slaves eventually because of what we're talking about. They had to, because if black and white stuck together, there's going to be an overthrow of that kind of government. Because why would everybody, the powers, as you said, the powers that be, if the money is all on the top 10% and 90% is all poor people, well, 9, that means 9 people for every one rich one. You don't think 9 people could take out the one rich one? That's the only thing that they were ever worried about preventing.
Right.
And because they looked like the white slaves, that was what they identified with, and that's what they moved up. They moved them up because they needed to separate them. And we're doing this today. We're fighting with each other to keep us separated so that we don't make changes that we should be making.
And you know what? They alluded to that when they showed the collage of footage of black people and white. Like the one white dude that said, look, whether you're a Yankee, a hillbilly, a Negro, if we come together and take over fight the establishment, we can blah, 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 blah. So to your point, yeah, that's all and I know you've said that numerous times in terms of, is it really about race or is it really about economics?
But it's both.
Yeah, absolutely, it's both.
And there's people that there's also people on a lower level that have been convinced that they're better than that next rung down, and that's why this can continue to happen.
But the thing that I found was funny is when they said that with the white indentured slaves, once they were offered a chance to come up, given land and title, they turned their backs on the black slaves and totally forgot they were in the same position. And they held up the same white supremacy ideology.
And they ended up buying. They could end up being owners of the people that they were in the rebellion against.
So once you give them, the same opportunity in terms of the playing field, well, now you're showing your true colors, are you not?
Well, wait a minute, because we said economics is part of this. Why are there black slave owners?
For economics?
Well, because that's the thing. They already showed you how to become successful. And when you see the line, when you see the blueprint, you follow the blueprint. That's why there was black men.
But again, the black slave owners weren't being brutal to their own people.
Do you know that?
Oh, no, I don't know that, but I've never heard
so
that.
They went out with nice. They were nice. They went out, instead of whipping someone, they tickled them with feathers. They were just as brutal.
I've never heard that.
They
I've
were
never
just as
seen
beautiful.
footage
Brutal.
of that document. I need
not
proof.
Not to the extent of chattel when we get to chattel slavery. But
So
at
then,
that time,
what would you consider brutal at that time?
flogging, beating, separating of your families, whatever they need to do.
See, this is where I need to do my research.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard that.
They follow the
I'm just saying I never heard it.
So I'm gonna go ahead and purchase somebody
A black person purchasing another black person.
But I'm gonna be the nice slave holder.
You know what, dude?
You want it to be something, Aries.
I hear what you're saying.
Nope.
I've never heard of that.
You want it to be something. And this is my problem with a lot of this that happens. We say it in a way because we want it to be nicer. We say a lot of things because we want it to be nicer.
So the black slave owners towards their black slaves raped women and
Let me ask
tortured them, and
I know I said chattel slavery was
so
completely
just
different.
flogging. It stopped
Flogging,
at flogging.
beating. I don't know what else it would be, but listen, if you, of all of a sudden your slave master now is a black man and you're a black man and you think, oh, this is going to be better. I'm not going to have to do this. What would that slave master, that black slave master, have to do to put his foot down to make them understand that they're going to be working here? This is not you're coming over to hang out at the house. This is not a barbecue. This is you going to work. You're working for me now. You're not working for the white man. You're working for me.
So the black slave master's ideology towards the black slave is the same as the white man in terms of you're not seen as a human being. You're a beast. You're an animal. You're not equal to me.
You're a worker, and I'm the master. That's the only way that works.
I need proof on that. I'm just saying I need proof on it. I've never heard that.
How else does it work?
I know.
I know you need proof. I'm going to let you get your proof. I might even send you some proof, but let me just ask you this question. How else does it work if you don't make a separation that you're the worker and I am the slave master?
I can't answer that. I just don't know. Because I listen, and this is why I say, forgive me, folks.
Okay, wait. I'll take it to a different story before you even get there. And I know this is a movie. Who's the bad guy in Django? Who's the worst person in Django?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, he's not.
Who?
You think Leonardo is worse than what's his fucking name now? I
I
can't.
know you about to not say the German.
No.
Oh, you talking about Sam Jackson's character?
Is Sam Jackson not the worst, the evilest character in that?
I see what you're trying to do here, but I don't know if I can go with this.
The one is doing what he's a slaver. He does what he's the white guy. That's who he is. Who's the guy that's pulling the strings? Who's the guy that's ruining everything? Who's the guy that's taking his people and making them worse off?
But he's doing that for his own survival.
And what does a slave master need to do to survive?
But Sam Jackson's character was not a slave master.
No, he wasn't.
He's under the slave master. So in order for him to survive, he's playing his part.
Okay.
We're talking about a black guy who is the master. No one's telling him what to do.
Free Sam Jackson in that character. What's he going to do? Give him some slaves now. Free him and give him some property and some slaves. Is he going
and Leonardo is no longer his master?
Yeah.
Sam Jackson is totally independent?
Yep.
I have a hard time believing that if he's independent and he's not under, wait a minute, let me finish, and he's not under the thumb of Leonardo DiCaprio, he would then go, I don't have to treat my fellow black man like this because there's no consequences if I don't.
He didn't have to treat him like that in this either.
Yes, he absolutely did.
No, he didn't.
His master is Leonardo DiCaprio. He's bucking and shucking and jiving for his own safety.
But he didn't like the fact that he didn't want her to get over. So
he didn't want her. Who's her?
Fisher.
Yeah, he's playing his position as far as being that not Uncle Tom, but a Sambo ass kiss.
Okay, so now I am the slave master. What's my position?
But you've got no one to.
You want to believe that black people have a higher level of empathy for their own people.
Andy, but hold on. You're trying to connect two things with two different rules. If I'm Sam Jackson,
okay,
and Leonardo is my master,
yep,
and I don't buck and shuck and jive and do what I need to do, wait a minute, you stop being so ready to answer and listen to me.
I'm listening to you.
If you're in a position where you go, well, it's better to be a house nigga than a field nigga. Look how the house niggas get treated. Even when they were all coming to Candyland, and when they finally got there, and all the overseers went, niggas don't walk in Candyland, they run, and made them niggas run. It's a better life. I wear better clothes. I sleep in better conditions. As long as I shuck and buck and jive and kiss my white slave owner's ass and stay in his good graces, I'm above everybody else that looks like me. But now, if I'm the master and there are no penalties for me having to do what I want to do and I'm totally independent and free, why am I going to treat my fellow man like that when I don't have to?
That's what you just said right now. You just went back on everything that you said.
How?
Why do I treat my fellow man like that if I don't have to?
If I don't have to.
How do I get you as a slave to do my work at this moment now?
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's go back to the indentured slaves, the white folks. You're saying, okay, to some degree, yeah, had to flog them, but didn't have to necessarily be brutal with them.
They were brutal with them, though. They were brutal with them. Some of them didn't live to their 7 years because of how they were worked. If they only had 7 years, they worked them for that 7 years.
Okay.
What I'm trying
the bad signal is in the air. Either you, and I'm sure you will, provide me with the proof of that, and to anybody listening, provide me with the proof. I don't give a fuck what it is. Whatever literature, whatever links that prove Andy is right in terms of black slave masters just as brutally treated their black slaves the way white folks brutally treated theirs. I had never heard of that.
How did you hear it?
You're telling me.
No. But how did you? Let me just ask you this question. And let's go with what you just did. But just let me ask you the question: how did the black slave master keep control?
You keep asking me the same question. I'm telling you, to a degree, if they're the slave, okay. But when you're going, they did the same thing that the white guy. I've never heard of that. And I would think that somewhere in all of these documentaries and all of the literature, that would have come across my desk.
Okay.
And it's never come across my desk. Now, does that mean it didn't happen the way you say? No. But I'm just saying if it did.
And I'm going to
with
say,
all the footage I've seen, with all the reading I've done, I've never heard of that.
I'm also going to say there's some white slave masters that weren't as brutal, and there's some black slave masters that weren't as brutal.
Well, that's to a degree addressed in this as well.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The things that I did not know, as I continue to watch things and read things, I go, oh, now I know. I've never heard of that one.
Okay.
I just have to bring this up just to break up the monotony. You know, there was a picture, and it was a great Paul Mooney joke, where even early in this, they continuously say how, I forget the one white guy's name who, to justify all of this, again, said that black people were not humans. We were apes. We were beasts. We were animals. And what's the one animal we often get told we are?
Monkey?
Monkey.
Yeah.
But yet there was a thing, Paul Mooney had a joke, and then somebody put the imagery to it, where he goes, it's amazing that they call us monkeys. Have you ever looked at a monkey? Look at a monkey's lips. Paper thin. Look at black people's lips and look at white people's lips. And then they had a picture of a black woman's lips from full frontal face and then from the side. And you can see how our lips are big and full. A monkey's lips look like white people's lips. Look at a monkey's hair. Monkey's hair is straight and stringy. Is a nigga's hair straight and stringy? Who is the monkey? And I just thought that
is pretty funny.
a hilarious, excellent observation.
I think if you, depending on most monkeys, you shave them, they're light skinned underneath too.
Who is the monkey nigga?
There is a, but because you brought that up.
And who sounds a lot like woo.
Because you brought that up, though, the Senator Davis, who became the president of the Confederacy, I guess, here's what it was. It's what brought up the landed nod.
The landed nod?
Nod, which is the beginning, is how he justified that blacks were a subhuman category because and used the Bible where I you know what, I went back after this and I wanted to see what this landed nod is that he's talking about.
Right.
And it has this interpretation. I don't know how you could even pull this interpretation. I don't know, and this is where I have a huge problem with religion. How did the Christians who hold the Bible allow him to say this? Because nod does not. This interpretation of nod is ridiculous. I know that I have the benefit of reading and have years of interpretation and scholars that have looked at things and have. But even at that time, I can't believe that interpretation would fly.
Yeah, but isn't that the whole, white people pulling shit out their ass to justify all the heinous shit that they've done?
Okay,
that we know is horse shit.
We'll get to that too because again, this and it addresses what you just said. White people, and again, this addresses white people in this.
I like how they said that whiteness, even in poverty, still gives you an edge over everyone else. But at the same time, they also echoed what you've always said about wealth and the elite. So it seems like there's a reality to whiteness being an edge, but also economic power and position plays a part too. So my question is, where does the line get blurred? You know what I'm saying? Like, because when you, like a second ago when you went, well, is it economics or is it race? It's both. So for white people to go, I have no privilege. And many of the black people in this doc went, even if you're poor, you still being white gives you an edge, even if you don't think it does. But at the same time, again, to your point, yeah, the white elite look down on white people that are poor too. So it's confusing to me.
Well, I think it's in the system. Is what we're looking at. The system is when we talk about cultural structure. I think when you're at that economic level of the bottom, whether you're white or black, the upper level is going to look at you horribly, dirty, gross. Look at you. Look how you live. Look at what you eat. I don't think that they see that the difference. It's just bad.
So there still is even with all of that, is there still But you are white, so
Nope, I don't think it comes from there. I think it comes from the system, because the system isn't run by rich people. The system is run by middle people. And the middle people is where I believe we get this separation. And this is how they've managed to allow middle and lower to run this distraction so that the rich elite can continue to be rich and elite. Because let's say you're a sheriff. Are you a rich person if you're a sheriff?
no.
But you have power. And I look at you as a black man as if I'm a white man, and as a black man, I'm going to be like, yeah, but this is these white guys. Yeah, they're fucked up, and they're these guys. But this black dude, no, I know the land and nod that was put out to me. I know that I'm a better person than that, and they're trying to get over on me. I think it's that level is where you have the bonds of racism. And I said the bonds of racism is because you trap these people to keep that level there. And as long as they're fighting there is no upward mobility.
Right.
And as long as you keep them in that level, you can continue to be elite and go to your elite organizations and elite funds and have a great time, and you are not bothered by that. And then you pay this level of I use sheriff because of it seems to go with the time that we were talking about, to keep them away from you. You give that sheriff a little bit. He's the buffer between the elites and the lower.
Right.
And I need you to have a strict way of holding that line so that we can have parties and we can have principles and beauty and live this life.
That sounds a lot like an overseer.
And you keep everything down here. You keep everything over here. Yeah, it's an overseer. But we're living in a life where we still, I believe this is how we're working. I do believe this.
Nice moment in this. I don't know if I should use the word nice, but touching. The great late Maya Angelou gives this poem.
Dude, that broke me up.
Yeah, dude, it got me. The first time it kind of like went over my head, but then when I watched it this morning, it got me. And what's so powerful is not just the poem itself, but as she's saying it, she's breaking down,
she's
crying. And I had to write it down. She goes, 70 years in these folks' world, the child I work for calls me girl. That line, wow. I say, ha, 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 yes, ma'am, for working's sake. I'm too proud to bend and too poor to break. So, ha, 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 I laugh until my stomach aches when I think about myself. My folks can make me split my side. I laughed so hard I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but they eat the rain. I laugh, ha, 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 until I start to cry. When I think about myself, it could, and I did derive from living on the edge of death. They kept my race alive by wearing the mask. Yeah.
Dude, when she cries, like, I felt like you hear it. You hear when she's laughing, you hear the crying.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable. If no other reason that people watch this, just for that,
right?
I would watch this.
And the fact that she ain't no actress. This wasn't a performance. Everything about it was genuine. And what you just said, the laugh was the cry. And that laugh masking the pain is what caused her to cry. It's just a real beautiful moment. Real fucking beautiful moment. Thomas Jefferson, which this is, again, something I didn't know. I mean, I knew he had kids by, a lot of kids by a black woman.
Sally, I'm sorry, I don't even have it.
But I never knew that. Like with Abraham Lincoln, how
Hemmings.
Again, this myth that Abraham Lincoln is this guy we should hold in high regard within the black community. I didn't know that it was taught that Thomas Jefferson was supposed to be held in high regard by us. And then Thomas Jefferson opposed both slavery and abolition. Explain that shit. So Thomas Jefferson was not the hero that they try and teach us that he was. He described black women as orangutans and unattractive, and constantly raped black women and had children by his black woman. Yeah, I didn't know that shit.
I have, I'm going to have to, I have more on that, though. I love the gentleman that's in this stock, and he called Thomas Jefferson the great contradiction, I think is what he called him. I know that he said the man of contradiction. Thomas Jefferson is a very complicated person in this in the history of the beginnings of America. He is a great man. He is like, again, you have to separate. I have to separate the things of greatness and the things of complete and utter dismay. I've done.
You about to say he was great?
He was great as far as establishing the country, writing the Declaration of Independence. What I told last week, I said, study some Thomas Jefferson. Go back and read it, because at one time he was held in high regard. And then we come back and he's a horrible person. In the original Declaration of Independence, he blames the king of England for slavery and bringing its scourge to the land that is the United States. And he wants to abolish slavery at the moment of this America. And that is shot down by the Congress. And it's taken out and removed, and all words of slavery are removed from it. That's his initial response to what America's going to be. And he's met, and obviously he's met with a no. And the reason I say obviously is because years later we're in a civil war because they still don't want to remove slavery. Half the country, there's 13 colonies, so half of it doesn't want to remove it. So at that time, after a war with England, that was a no-go, though. That was a no-go. We're going to stay status quo. That's something that isn't talked about in these docs. That doesn't get said.
So him calling black women orangutans and raping them, at some point, this is my question. At some point, does that not override all of the other shit, so we can take away great?
Is the document that has lasted longer than any other document for in history, a constitution that stood its test of time? He wrote that. Is that a great document? Now, the person himself, flawed.
Right.
Listen, man, I'm going to say it this way, and
this feels like some Bill Cosby shit.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say if tomorrow a guy who specialized in murdering children, specialized, that was his deal. He liked to murder kids, and you found 1,000 bodies under him. Next to him was the cure for cancer. Is that the greatest cure that we could have in this country, in the world right now? Is a cure for cancer? Whatever it was, it cured all cancer. Does it change the fact that he's a child killer and he's a horrible person? But he left one of the greatest cures. I'm just saying, we can't, when you do this, we want to throw out everything. And we can't unless you want to throw out everything. So then let's not take the cure, and let's just say he's a baby killer and the cure goes away. Would you take that deal? I'm not trying to make it like it's this. I'm trying to say this is so complicated when we talk about people. You said Bill Cosby. There's been people. Cosby's an interesting one because people would disagree with whether he did it or not. Still, there are people who believe he didn't do it.
I don't know that I disagree with you, but
it's a rough one, isn't it? It's a rough one. I'm not trying to say it's easy. It's not. It's hard. This is a terrible situation that we can't have just good people. And we have bad people. If we had just good people and bad people, it would be so easy to maneuver through life. But we don't. We have flawed people. And not all good people do good things, and not all bad people do bad things.
Right.
So this makes it completely impossible to try to do what I think is what we're trying to accomplish when we try to cancel someone because they did this. So everything that they did, man, listen, if they were walking down the street and they saved someone's grandma from getting hit by a bus, but because they're bad people, should we go get that grandma and throw her back in front of a bus? Because he's a bad person? I'm being overly, about
No. I know.
it because so. But when we get into what he is and who he is, yeah, there's some problems with him. I mean, obviously, we know there's some problems with him. But I want to understand, and this is where I'm lost, and I've talked to some other people about this, because he wants to abolish slavery, but slavery is not going to be abolished, so he keeps his slaves. And we were like, well, he's a bad guy because he had slaves. There's issues to this, though.
Because he had slaves, because he raped women.
Well, wait. We go on the raping the women part here. I can't go that fast through this whole thing. Yes, the raping Sally Hemings is we have to go in the standard of the day. Was it against her will? I don't know, but maybe it was against her will. So then he's a rapist. By that standard at that time, if she was a slave and his property, he's not a rapist. Today, we know that he's a rapist. Today, he's a rapist. Without a doubt, 100%. That day, he wasn't.
You're getting a big, for the people that aren't watching this podcast but listening, I'm making a big face that has a Scooby-Doo connotation to it. Huh?
No, I'm not. But see, this is the conundrum. I'm not.
So I don't know that we could say, listen, hey, it was the time.
No.
It's still. Come on.
I'm not going, hey, it's the time. I'm saying it was the time. I don't agree with it. And looking at it today, we can all say what it is. But I said this to you early on in our podcasting. I always think that I'm a good person. I think socially, I think that I fall on the right side of things. I'm not always 100%, but I believe that I want the best for people and for things to move forward and to take care of the people that can't take care of themselves. All those things are true. But I asked the question a long time ago, if this was 1780 and I was living in the Americas after a few hundred years of the Dutch,
and you owned a slave,
and would I have a problem with it? Would I go, well, this is the way things are?
Well, there were white people that had problems with it.
Yeah, there are. And I'm not saying it. I'm just asking the question. I want to say that I would be a good person, but I have to ask myself, the real question is, would you? Everybody will say, everybody sitting in my seat right now that's sitting next to you and has this opportunity to have this conversation would love to look into this camera and say, I would be a good person. I know that I would be on the right side of history. But would you? And if you're not going to ask yourself that question, then you are not going to be on the right side of history. Because if you can't ask yourself that question and you blanketly say, I would be on the right side of history, I don't think that you thought about your character. I don't think you thought about who you were and the pressures that you would feel from that particular time. I wouldn't think that you would have considered your success is, I have this property, this land, and I only have so many people that can work it. But someone is offering me so many, 10 of their slaves for X amount of dollars just to work. I don't even have to buy them. I can just lease them out for the year. And I can pay John a certain amount of money. And I can have someone work this. If you haven't asked yourself those questions, how do you say that you're a good person and that you wouldn't do that? I'm just not. I'm not so blind to the fact that we
listen. They're good questions.
There, I have to ask myself those questions. Without asking those questions, you're lying to yourself if you just say, no, I'd be a good person. You want to be a good person, but would you be a good person is the thing.
Harriet Jacobs wrote Incidents of a Slave Girl. And this was my note because I was like, dude, and she even pointed this out. As hard as it was for a man, black man, to be a slave, how much more terrifying was it to be a woman?
I think that
knowing that your pussy can be taken at any point. But then I thought to myself, well, let's take it one step further. I'm sure this had to exist. As worse as it was to be as hard as it was to be a male slave and go through what you went through, and the next level of terror above that is being a black female slave. What if the next level above that was, what if you're a black male slave and your master is homosexual? He can rape you too.
He can, and sexual, what's it called? Buck breaking was used at that time.
Yeah, but there were times when buck breaking was used just to set an example. I'm talking about.
Do you care why anybody's behind you?
No, I got you. But what I'm saying is, if I have look, I don't want nobody behind me. But when you say ask yourself this question,
Yes, I know where you. Yeah.
One time versus my master is a homosexual
And sneaks into my room
and wants to fuck me every chance he wants.
Because he doesn't want to fuck his wife. He wants to sneak down to my quarters.
Now imagine that. Where's that psychology? How do you deal with that psychology? And that's never been taught in the history books.
Well,
and there's no way you could tell me that didn't exist.
Well, I'm going to tell you because just like you said, I'm going to have to see the proof. You're going to have to show me some proof. The idea of it, knowing that it must exist because just the fact that it's out there and the way the world works, I would say you were right. But since, like what you said to me, I'm going to have to see the proof. Because it can exist. I never heard of it. I never read it. I never seen it. Some things we know innately are true. And that one I know is innately true.
That's crazy.
Just as I know innately what I said earlier is true.
Imagine you, this black slave, 6 feet, muscular, girthy, strong as an ox, and your slave master has the body of a Vietnamese teenage boy, and he's gonna fuck you, and you know you could beat the shit out this nigga, but you gotta take it. What psychology is that, dude?
Your setup was too much, man. Your setup was too much.
Picture Michael Clark Duncan being forcibly raped by Ken Jeong. Like, you know what I'm saying? What does that do to your fucking psychology, man? Like, I could break this nigga in half like a twig, but he's my master, and I gotta take it.
I don't know. Just go to the scene from Pulp Fiction.
Gonna call some hard-hitting pipe niggas.
Before we get too far away, though, I did want to get back to Sally Hemings because I'm not dismissing anything that Thomas Jefferson did. I was saying at the time, and I'm also saying they did go to France together. I don't think that it was just. I know that it was a relationship that wasn't necessarily consensual, as far as I know. I don't know if it ever became consensual. I do know that they went to France. There is writings about their time there. He was. She came back to the States. They had a deal to release that her kids would be freed upon their 21st birthday. There's a lot of weird things, though, that he had to go, that Jefferson went through, too, because he did have his slaves. And I asked this question to someone because I wanted to understand this, and this was a long time ago I asked. If you were somebody who was against slavery, why wouldn't you free your slaves? And I didn't know this. There's a tax to prevent people from buying slaves to free them. So the tax is approximately as much as you would pay for the slave. So that's why when you hear about people that have freed slaves either at an age or upon their death, that's what that's for. If you free them on your death, there's no tax, obviously.
Right.
If you freed them before, you would have to pay for that. People like Benjamin Franklin had a slave. Benjamin Franklin had one slave, and it was his manservant. And it was inherited. He never purchased the slave, the inheritance from a family member. And upon his death, the slave was freed. But then I thought about this too. Well, it's only one. Couldn't you have freed him? But I thought about this, and I'm just throwing this out there. I'm asking this question, and let me ask you what you think about this. At that time, if you were a Benjamin Franklin and you had a manservant, someone who took care of you at your house.
That sounds like the homosexual relationship.
Yeah, well, but he took care of you. Right. He did what he was supposed to do. And this time in this country when it's going through this, he's protected because as a black man, someone could
the
go.
Black guy was protected.
Yeah, because he could go. Someone could go after his manservant, but they couldn't because it's Benjamin Franklin's property, and so that has protection.
Right.
If you free someone and then they have to make a living or earn on their own, what do they? I don't know. I'm asking this question. I'm not defending anything here. I'm just asking it. is there a safety in being Benjamin Franklin's manservant? Then you inherit, and then you have enough money and to take care of yourself and maybe protect yourself from that?
Yes and no. Didn't what was it said or rumored that what was Ben Franklin's association with lightning?
No, that's how he discovered electricity.
Yeah, his manservant was protected, but he was also extremely lucky because Franklin, historically, this is a fact, he used him as the kite.
I was being serious to try to understand some mentality at that time.
You know how long I was trying to set that joke up?
Yeah, you got it in. Jesus. Okay, so we'll move on from that. But going back to Thomas Jefferson, as far as the building of the United States, building what it was, very interesting, very, but this personal part of his life, very complicated and filled with nothing but contradictions. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one for me to understand.
Right. Here's something, again, I didn't know. Because I automatically assumed, just by the very nature of who they were and what they did, in terms of abolitionists. If they were called, one particular group was called the Pioneers of Freedom. And these white abolitionists thought slavery was wrong, but also didn't see blacks as equal human beings. How the fuck can you upload both those ideologies? So you think it's wrong, and you're helping to free them, but you still look at them as not equal?
Well, I would have to say, and this is where some of this does, but when I said I had some issues with some of the things they're said, they don't look at poor, uneducated white people as equal either. That's not said in this, though.
But if you're poor and, most importantly, uneducated versus, I don't think you have to be money. Well, to a degree, but let's just say educated. If you're uneducated and I'm educated, and I'll even throw money in there, because that means, to some degree, I've amassed the money that I've gotten and the wealth that I've gotten because I've done some of the right things. Am I not better than you a little bit? Not saying I should treat you like shit, but if I'm educated and you're not, I'm not better than you.
You have bettered yourself. You have bettered yourself. I have not bettered myself. So in that line that you would have to draw, yes. But then add the color thing to it. Now you're black also. So that is, and at the time, that was what held people down into, and still to this day, holds people down into their categories.
But whatever it is that's making you go, slavery is wrong, the brutality is wrong, how could you then also not go, thinking I'm better than you is not wrong?
Well, okay. I'm just going with it this way. All right, so let me ask you this question. You defend that Chris Rock joke.
Which one?
I'm not.
Oh, I love black people. I hate niggas. Right.
So you have a line?
And you know what? Through my experience in life and on this road, yeah, I have a line.
So is that what they're saying? I'm not. Listen, man, I'm really trying to be honest here about who we are as humans. I do think that when there's superiority in your head when you feel like I've had an education, I've traveled, I have experience. Yes, I don't think that you should have to work like this, but you're not on my level. You're not. I don't see you. I see you as inferior. And throw in also this because when blacks came over to the country, they didn't have a language that was English. They didn't read necessarily until later, until they could get some education. So, what do you say when somebody can't really speak your language and they don't read? That
Get the fuck out of the country.
You say, yeah, that's what they say today. That you're ignorant, that you don't have the ability to learn.
These fucking niggas.
So that also is part of that. So right. I think that would be part of it, and I think there's always been an elitist part of every country.
Okay, now here we go with our boy again. Two quotes, and they speak on this. Abraham Lincoln.
I love this, and I'm ready for this one.
Even when you cease to be slaves, you are still far removed from being placed on equality with the white race. Whether this is right or wrong, I need not discuss. Second quote, I, as much as any other man, am in favor of being in the superior position assigned to the white race. Now, before I hand the mic over to you, the two key things he says in that second quote that stand out to me. When you use the words superior and white race, sell me again on how this guy's not with racist.
Let's do it. Let's do the first one. Read the first one. I'll stop you if I need to get to it.
Even when you cease to be slaves,
Yes.
you are still far removed from being placed on equality with the white race. Whether this is right or wrong, I need not discuss. And when you say I need not discuss, why not discuss it if you believe it's wrong?
Okay. Let's say you read it that way. Now, read it to me.
I read it the way it was.
Yeah, I know. But now read it to me, the same thing that you just read, and read it to me as if you're explaining to me why I'm fucked.
What do you mean why you're fucked?
I'm going to read it to you.
Right there.
Where? Okay. Even when you cease to be a slave. So I'm looking at this as the time when you're not going to be a slave now.
Right.
Even as you cease to be a slave, you are still far removed from being on a place on equity with the white race. Whether this is right or wrong, I need not discuss.
Ah. So it's the way it's being said?
I don't know. I would have to do more studying on what this was.
Boy, these white tricks. Boy, these white folks.
But do you
got
understand what I just said?
games, baby?
Okay, and the other one, even more importantly. Read that and read
And
it.
I'm going to say before I read the second one, based on how you delivered that, I'm not going to say I'm not a little bit sold on where you're going with that. But the second one?
Okay, now the second one. I work for the white man. You're the president. The president is the top job in the country, right?
As much as any other man, I'm in favor of being...
I'm reading this to my white constituents who are in favor of slavery.
As much as any other man, am in favor of being in the superior position assigned to the white race.
As much as any other man. I'm telling you, this is my constituency. I'm trying to be president. I am reading this to slavers.
You slick motherfucker.
No, but he had to. I'm not the slick one. You know who's the slick one here? I'm going to tell you, if you guys do more research, please. Abraham Lincoln was one of the slickest motherfuckers in the world. Because how do you get elected to remove slavery in a land that doesn't want slavery, that is willing to succeed from the United States and go to war to prevent that from happening? And then I read some other thing when they said, make no mistake, his job was to keep the Union together. Yes, that was his job. That's what he wanted to do, is keep the Union together. Let me ask you this question. What separated the states from what made it separate? The removal of slavery. So yes, his job, his want to put it together. This reinterpretation of Abraham Lincoln, and one of the things that made me the maddest is when they show it and they're trying to make these points, and then they show the statue where he's patting the bronze statue. It's Lincoln patting the black dude on the top of the head. Did you know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's a statue. It exists. It's in D.C.
Right,
I don't know if it's still there anymore. They may have taken it down. That was paid for by an ex-slave to honor Lincoln. A black ex-slave paid for, had it made to honor the great emancipator. Now, this is why I get defensive about it. I understand in this part, and I thought this is key, and I never really thought about it this way, but I do think it's important. When she said the initial abolitionists, the real abolitionists were black. And it's somehow
Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman.
And the others that we aren't famous.
Right.
But they're overshadowed by Abraham Lincoln because of a white man. I'm sorry. All those other people were great abolitionists, and they did what they needed to do. That's true. But it took a white man to get. Oh. Let me plug this in.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to.
It took a white man. That's I know. I'm making sure I make so you
I'm
pick
sure
up.
you're not gonna forget where I left it. It took a white man to sneak into the White House to make those changes. It was not going to be a black man. It was not going to be a black abolitionist. It was not going to be that. The only way that was getting done is the way that it got done. And I just wanted to say this. As a Jew, during World War II, this country did not want to go save Jews. The United States did not want to go say they wanted to stay out of that war. The president at the time, Roosevelt, not for the Jews, by the way, but Jews hold him in high regard because he did go there. When the troops were coming in and they were taking over the concentration camps and they were freeing these Jews, I don't think of one Jew turned and looked at him and go, "Do you like Jews? Are you okay with Jews? We're okay with you. I just want to make sure, because when I write my book, I just want to make sure that I say they didn't even like us. They just came because they were told to."
Your cadence got a little Jewy there.
Yeah, it was supposed to.
Do you like Jews? Do you
Yeah,
like
it was
Jews?
supposed to.
But go ahead.
Yeah, that's not the point.
Right.
We're trying to reevaluate and rewrite. And I understand that black people get your credit in for what you did. I'm not denying any of that, but they exist together. And somehow this rewriting, in order to get your credit, it does not have to demean Lincoln. They can both be together. I think Frederick Douglass should be elevated because his position with Lincoln was different. But let's not make any mistakes about this. We're going to read about it, and you can go and read, and you'll see that there was disagreements, hearty disagreements between Frederick Douglass and Lincoln, and they had these conversations are important. But of course they're going to be different because one has an agenda and the other one has a similar agenda. But Frederick Douglass in no way is going to not want all. Lincoln is going to give the pieces that he can to get it done. There's two different goals. And Frederick Douglass is not wrong for his goal, and Lincoln is not wrong for his goal.
Let me jump ahead on the same wavelength. Because this, when they showed this, it brought me to something that, so when Donald Trump says, "I have done more for black people or as much for black people as Abraham Lincoln." Now, I went prior to this conversation.
I think he said since Abraham Lincoln.
Or since Abraham Lincoln. But the insinuation being, I'm for the brothers because, I'm like Abraham Lincoln, goddammit. Look what I did for you niggas. Prior to us having this conversation with those two Lincoln quotes, and then Donald Trump saying that, I went, and do you see why motherfuckers, how could you be black and stand for Donald Trump when he's, basically putting him in the same hierarchy as a guy who clearly was racist? And again, I'm not necessarily know that I'm 100% in, but based on how you delivered it, I could kind of see a little bit. I'm going to be honest. I'm confused on the Lincoln thing. Because when you said it like that, it did make me go, okay. But I don't know. I don't know.
When Lincoln had already was setting up everything for after the war, Reconstruction. Let's do this. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this way. I think it solves the problem. If Lincoln wasn't for abolishing slavery, if Lincoln wasn't for the Reconstruction to bring for blacks in the South, it's very important because in the North there's a delay, and this is something that wasn't talked about in this and doesn't get talked about often. There is a delay for the North, but if he wasn't willing to do that, why did he get shot in the back of the head at the theater from the Southern sympathizers?
I have my education on all of this. I'm telling you, I need to see the movie Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay, because it was against what they wanted. He is doing what he knows needs to be done. A lot of people say he's just doing it because he knows that this is the better design for America. Yeah, it is the better design for America. You're right. It is. But is that not because he understands that black people shouldn't be slaves?
But is that a better designed for America as all of us, or better designed for America for white folks?
No, for all of us, because there is no free America without freedom for blacks in the idea of abolishing slavery. There isn't. It goes against when he talks about read. You got to read his speeches. If you read his speeches and you break down what he's talking about that America fucked up by continuing with slavery. You got to go back and do more research. I understand that, and this is why I really do like this documentary, because as much as I disagree with certain aspects, overall, I love this doc. And it was hard for me because I wanted to go, they're not getting this, they're not saying this. Little things like the statute, they're trying to bring you in to a place that I don't agree with the way that they're doing this. But the information and what they talk about is outstanding. And the idea, when we go to the fact that the black abolitionists didn't get credit, and it does fall to the whites, and it does look like, oh, well, look, the white savior complex, which we talk about, and we have talked about this on the podcast.
Right.
But it's more than that. And so I love that we are bringing it up, but that doesn't, I think these are two different things. You do not have to diminish Lincoln to raise up the other people, other black people in this instance. You can bring both up. It's almost counterproductive to me, and this is just my thought, of diminishing. Anytime you have to diminish somebody to bring yourself up, you're not really doing. You're not bringing yourself up. You're changing the playing field. You're just lowering something so that you feel.
Cat Williams just entered the chat. Go ahead.
But that's what I'm saying. You can bring up all these other, and that's what I think we're kind of doing right now. We're trying to give people their moment, and we're not doing a great job at it because America does things through like movies. Hey, we're going to make a movie. We're going to let everybody know in the general public. Look how cool this person was and what they did.
I'm dying to get your opinion. We only got 3 minutes left, so I'm dying to get your opinion on this. No. So what do you think about the Donald Trump quote then?
Donald Trump actually, and I hate to say this, because I am not wanting another Donald Trump presidency. As I'm looking at it, it almost seems unavoidable. I didn't think we'd get to this place. I really didn't.
The Empire Strikes Back.
But he wasn't lying. Donald Trump did do a lot of things that benefited the black community, but he's the wrong person to do it, and they're going to sell him. What
do you mean when you say he's the wrong person to do it?
The liberals want, the liberal side, the Democratic Party wants credit for doing both.
And I'm asking you this because I'm going to throw your own point back at you. If you say he's done a lot for black people, which is good, then why shouldn't he be the person to do it if he's the baby killer but got the cure for cancer?
Because he doesn't have the decorum and the humility to be a great president. He might.
And I think black people don't give a fuck about that as long as he can do for us.
Okay. Well,
that nigga tell it like it is. He tell the truth. He really a nigga. That's some of the black excerpts about him.
Because he doesn't get as much done as he could get done if he was able to say things in a different way. He doesn't always have to be this guy. No one wants someone on the edge all the time. I mean, if you're in a relationship and with a person that's calm and they have some needs and they have things, you usually are a little bit more receptive to what they want. This guy is, Tony Montana on the fucking balcony, taking out everybody that's coming. That people are going to come for you in this position, and they're going to come for him because he isn't the one that they want in that position. And you want someone that gets off on the idea that I'm there and they can't do anything about it, not someone who gets off on the idea that I'm going to take them all out because they didn't want me here in the first place. We want you to do the business, not take care of your personal business. I think he's been. I think he was shit on. I think that it's funny because we have two white guys that want to be president. One, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, and the other one who thinks he's done more for black people than basically Abraham Lincoln. I think we got two white people that are trying to run for black office, and neither one of them I think should be the ones to get it. To be honest, but it doesn't take someone who's pro-black. This is how this country should be run. It doesn't take someone that's pro-black to be in the White House to make black people's lives better. It takes someone that's pro-American, that's pro-Constitution, that's pro the strength of what this country was supposed to be, and to follow those directions, and it will be better. Lyndon Johnson, I mean, it's very funny. We watched the doc with Lyndon Johnson, and what did Lyndon Johnson say? What did I forgot who it was. I'm sorry. But when Kennedy was out of the White House, when Kennedy was assassinated, and Lyndon Johnson went in, they said, I think we can do something with this guy. They had a guy that was pro-black. We're going to do, but they knew they could only go so far with him because he didn't know how to work with black people, or he wasn't around black people the same way that Lyndon Johnson, who used the N-word every other word,
Right.
who wasn't the nicest man, that had all his meetings when he was taking a shit, he would make his guys stand around him to take notes.
Well, who doesn't?
Anyway, he wasn't he wasn't the classiest guy in the world, and he wasn't the nicest and sweetest, but he got more done. You don't need someone that's pro-black, pro-white. You don't need it. You need someone that's pro-American. That's what Donald Trump should be running on, because if he did that, he wouldn't have such a problem. He runs on some other, and that's what he is. That's what people who want to vote for him is, because he's pro-American. He's putting America first. He's saying that. I don't know that he's going to put Americans over his agenda. I have a problem with him. I think there's better people for the job. He's also old. He's old, he's fat, we're worried about Biden dying in the White House. This guy eats Big Macs and is well overweight and can combust at any moment. So I don't know. Just because you're healthy doesn't mean you're not going to have a heart attack and die in office.
Right. Dude, you've never thought about, seriously, like maybe switching gears a little bit and trying to figure out how to do political comedy? Because you know a lot about this shit. History, politics. You never thought about going down the Lewis Black or Bill Maher road?
No.
Nah.
I mean, maybe if I really enjoyed it, but right. you have to educate yourself all the time. You have to read. You have to get up on things. It's not that I don't want to put up the work, but like I started to do some reading on Sally Hemings, and then I was like, oh, man, it's depressing sometimes. You're like, Jesus Christ, I don't, and I like Tom. This is the problem. I like Thomas Jefferson, not for the bad side of Thomas Jefferson, for the 20-something-year-old guy that basically started a country and wrote some really enduring piece of enduring constitution. And then you see who they really are, and it's rough. It's rough, and I feel disgusted and dirty by it at the same time.
Folks, it's called Stamped from the Beginning on Netflix. I only really added one other note, but my note was more maybe comical.
Come on, guess the note. It's almost over.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when they show the King Kong footage, and it's like, the insinuation always being that black men are so sexually hyper and we just these out of control, my dick, animals, that we lust for white women to the point where we know what they're trying to say. King Kong, he's an ape, so therefore he's a black man lusting for this white woman. They couldn't have made King Kong, still keep the name, but why not a giant giraffe?
You think a giant giraffe is what's going to do, paw her with it?
Yeah, why not? If a giant monkey can exist, then anything can exist. It's a giant monkey. Or a giant elephant. He could grab it with his trunk.
I actually.
Well, my question to you was this.
I actually did see an elephant grab a woman with the.
Oh yeah. They can do a lot of shit with that. But here was my question: is that one of those classic cases of if you're white, you'd go, "Oh, you're overthinking it," or do you think that was on purpose?
I don't know.
To insinuate.
It's too obvious not to think that somebody has that in mind. But how? Okay, let's say we want to write this. How else do you write it? Do you what giant animal do you pick? Godzilla. We picked. Godzilla is picked because of the radiation. Because when they got bombed, they. But
isn't that a Japanese character?
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying that's the story of King Kong, this big beast. But if you wanted to have tension, but they could have made it a black woman, I guess. But does the story work?
Yes, it's worked so well that they've made a gazillion of them.
And let's do the sexuality part a little bit. Black people have a different sexuality because of uptight white people at the time. We're talking about people that were so stiff. And black people, we have the music we have because black people were loose. And when I say loose, I don't mean loose. I mean,
I know what you mean. Loose, cool, style,
had some
swagger,
move. They danced.
Confidence.
Yeah, they danced and they had a groove to them that did have some. That if you looked at it from a sexual orientation only, it's spicy.
And listen, good dancing does have some sexual rhythm to it.
Hispanic, the Mexican side, Hispanic dance,
salsa music,
it all has that.
Yeah.
White people didn't have that. Oh, the polka doesn't have sexuality oozing out of it. So of course that is it's. I know it was used that way, but it was used that way because of an under-sexualized community looking at a healthy community.
So again, do you think it was done purposely with that intent? Let's make it a gorilla because that's a black man.
I'll say this. It fits the narrative, and I wouldn't disagree that had some aspect of it that is correct. But tell me what you use other than a gorilla to make that movie.
For it to work?
Yeah. Because if you could come up with anything, I'll give you 100% on it. But right now, I have to go, maybe it's 25, 50% of it, but it doesn't work any other way. I can't think of anything else that works.
Giant horse.
But they could have done, okay, let me just ask you this. If they would have said there's an albino monkey, albino gorilla, and it's white, and it wants this white woman, then they would have said, then the thing would be, well, why did it have to be white? We know the gorillas are black, and they made it white because they wanted to be strong and powerful because the strong gorilla would be the white one, not the black one.
Get a brother shot.
There's no way this works without... Because of racism, it's racist. It isn't racist on its own.
Right. All right. That's a show, man.
That is a show. That was fun. We didn't, and you know what? We did a good job of keeping it what it was.
Know, I said after our last argument, I was like, Aries, you got to check yourself. Even when there's tension, just relax. Just relax.
Well, I don't want there to be any tension. I think this was a great conversation.
No, it was, but there was one point where if I didn't catch myself, we was gonna go there.
But I always I'll throw white people under the bus every day, and you tend to gently drive over black people.
Or when you throw white people under the bus, I pull them out from under it. I stand them up, and then I roll over them again.
That's the show. Let me give you the dates. I don't know. Big black gorillas
under the bus.
Under the bus. I like under the bus. Let's see. Let's give me these dates. Dates. I pulled it up before.
You got the Canadian ones too?
Yeah, I got the Canadian ones.
You got everything.
I think I do. Listen, man, we're at, you know what? Real quick, man, we were at Addison. I want to give a big shout out to Addison, Texas. We had a bunch of sold out shows here.
Yeah.
I say we. Aries had a bunch of sold out shows here.
7 shows, 6 of them sold out, and the one that didn't was 5 seats away from it.
What a great weekend. Thanks for coming out and supporting. Oh, and I want to give a shout out to somebody. I want to show this before.
This is the second time this happened. When we were in Bridgeport, Connecticut, a dude brought Andy some Martha Stewart towels. The fact that this happened again by someone else, different city, but these went a little bit deeper. They have stitching on them. Look what it says. Wash your ass, Mr. Steinberg.
And there's other ones, and they also there's 4 of them, and they all say different things. The other one says, "Don't forget to wash the balls," and one says face, and one says ass. Listen, the gentleman who brought this out to me, thank you so much. I know you were trying to get a shirt, and then you got over to Aries, and it got crazy, and it was busy, and we never got to say. I didn't get your name. Please follow me on Instagram, Andy Comedy on Instagram. Everybody can follow me on Instagram, but please, sir, follow me. Let me have your name. I want to shout you out. I really appreciate you bringing it. It was just kind of funny. It was cool. I appreciate it.
And you know what? Y'all bringing Andy shit. Bring me some stuff I like. Bring me your wife.
Next week, guys, second time at Magooby's Joke House in Timonium, Maryland. That's going to be January 18th to the 21st. February 8th to the 10th. We're going to be, for the very first time, at Mesquite Street Pizza Southside. It doesn't sound like your career is moving up when I say it that way.
No, it feels like it's going backwards.
I'm not knocking you guys over at Mesquite Street Pizza Southside. It's just a weird name for a comedy club.
Yeah.
That's in Corpus Christi.
Corpus Crispy. Nigga, that sound like a burnt human being.
Yeah, dude.
Corpus Crispy.
Corpus Christi, Texas. We'll be out there February 8th to the 10th. It's our first time out there. Looking forward to it. Come out and support, guys. We're interested. I can't wait to see what this is all about. February 15th to the 18th, we're at Helium Comedy Club in Buffalo, New York. February 23rd to the 24th, we're at the Funny Bone in Albany, New York. March 15th through the 16th, we're at Cincinnati Funny Bone in Liberty Township, which is just the Cincinnati area. February 22nd through the 23rd, we're at the Funny Bone in Virginia Beach. And March 29th through the 31st, we're at the Funny Bone in Columbus, Ohio. Then we're doing a little bit of our one-nighters at some theater shows. We're going to be at Broward Center for the Performing Arts in Fort Lauderdale. That's April 5th. April 11th, we're going to be at River Creek Resort Casino. It's River Creek, sorry. Resort Casino in Enoch. And that's in Alberta, Canada. That's April 11th. April 12th, we're going to be at Grey Eagle Resort and Casino in Calgary. April 13th through 14th, we come back to the States. We're at Syracuse, New York. That's April 13th to the 14th. April 15th, we're at Danforth Music Hall in Toronto. Then April 19th to the 21st. Aries, you need anything? We're going to be at the Cleveland Improv. I'm going to see my boy Frank. April 17th, we're at Broward Center in Ottawa, Canada. Then April 28th, just 28th, we're at the Olympia in Montreal. Followed by April 30th, Bella Rose Arts Center in Halifax, Nova Scotia. After that, I'm just going to give this real quick. May 2nd through the 5th, we're going to be coming to Portland, Oregon, where they tried to get rid of your boy in the Helium, Portland, Oregon. The city did.
Get rid of my boy.
You're my Jewish brother, and you like him as a comedian. I'm trying to remember his name. He's on everything all the time, talking about Israel.
Oh, Michael Rappaport?
Yeah, Rappaport.
Yeah, I don't really have love for Mike Rappaport no more.
Really?
Yeah, because he was on some bullshit with me.
He was?
Yeah.
They're trying to picket him and get him so that he couldn't do his shows out.
Really?
Yeah, no, and I want to give him a shout out only because he stood strong and he was doing his shows and he embraced the hate. So
I want to give condolences to Fallen Soldier, who was a podcast listener, Angel X. If you're still listening, brother, suck all of my dick, because this nigga wrote me an email based on my post about Cat Williams and goes, Aries, blah, 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 you're a phony. So I let this nigga have it. We went back and forth. So I'm assuming he doesn't listen anymore. And the thing that really pissed me off is what I always say on this podcast, people are stupid and they don't pay attention. You people, it's like when Andy says, do your research. You guys hear me say things, and somewhere along the line, you lose focus. Because if you really listen to what I'm saying, I have already addressed what you're accusing me of, or you're saying I either did or didn't do. So when you go, oh, you're a phony because you said that, did you really listen to what I said? If you really listen to what I said word for word, your assessment is completely off. So, Angel X, I don't know if, I assume you're not listening no more, but you might pull a Brandon Corksaka and still listen because you like that kind of abuse.
it's Angel X. Angel X,
Yeah.
if you do me a favor, if you're not listening anymore, I understand. I'm not going to say anything to you about it because you got to do what you got to do. But before you go, can you like and subscribe?
There you go.
Everybody else, like and subscribe. Hit that button. Tell a friend.
There it is. And also remember, May 11th, Boston Wilbur?
Oh, yeah. I didn't say that one. I'm sorry. Here, I'll throw that out there. I only went to May 2nd.
Fucking Boston, kid. The Wilbur did it. You've been fucking asking me when we're coming. We're fucking coming.
That was the very next one. May 11th, Wilbur Theater in Boston. Looking forward to that. That's my first time out there, too.
And then May 18th, Hulu Theater, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that's the one that you
The links for Boston Wilbur are out now. You can purchase. New York isn't up yet. It'll be closer towards the date. It's because a lot of people are hitting me up asking, yo, when can I get the tickets? Where are the links? It's going to be a minute. But just know, you know. There it is.
That's the show.
Spears and Steinberg.
Thanks for listening to the Spears and Steinberg podcast. If you'd like to know who's responsible for this shit, it was hosted by Ari Spears and Andy Steinberg, produced by Steve Merrick and Anthony Holmes, executive producer, Big Papa, Robert Kelly, and Matt Kleinschmidt for the Laugh Button podcast. For more information on where to find us on the internet, visit SpearsburgPod.com.